Sorenameka sainamaka saretiake saina kisi. Welcome. Karanameka saretiake saraninyameka to another wonderful episode. Saretake saraninyamiki, a transmission. Saretake saraninyameka saretiki siki. So in today's transmission, we're going to talk about the 4 elements and working with them. And before we start though, let's take a deep inhale through the nose. Feel free to close your eyes or keep the eyes open, just looking gently towards one point. Take a deep inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth, let it go. Arriving, being present here with you. And again, deep inhale through the nose. And exhale through the mouth, let anything go. Last time, deep inhale through the nose. Holding the breath this time. And setting up your intentions for this transmission. So the 4 elements, what is calling you about the 4 elements? Is it going deeper into yourself? Is it understanding them more? Is it working with them? What is it? Or maybe something else. Whenever you're ready, exhale fully. Beautiful, beautiful. Welcome. I'm so excited to be here. And Zeus is right here with me too by my feet. If you have no idea who Zeus is my puppy. And we actually work together. We're a really great team. He is 14 months and he's still tapping into all his gifts and channeling abilities, which is kind of fascinating to witness, honestly. So yeah, that was just like a parenthesis. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. The 4 elements. Wow, the 4 elements. I really want to give you like a little brief story of me, right? Because again, I have like, and I've heard it also that like some people kind of put me up in the pedestal and they just see like, they think that my life has always been like this, and it really hasn't, like I have a really long story. And if you have been tapping into the podcast, you know there's a really long story of self-sabotage, a lot a lot. Okay, so it's not like I have been working with them for so long, like my whole life. Yeah, but what happened was that the more I went into different practices that would really like help me, is the more that their gifts open up to me. And it's not like something that honestly I was aware of, right? Like growing up, it's not like I gave thanks to like Mother Earth or Father Sun or like the wind, like I did like grow up like in Lima and also the capital of Peru and also in the mountains of Lima, because my grandparents had a farm and we still have the farm. And so like I did grow up really close to the earth, but as a kid, it's not like they were like telling me, hey, we give thanks whenever we take a fruit from the tree or something. I'm sure they did in their own way, but I didn't. I was just being a kid. That's all I can say. And so through my awakening experience, like whenever you're ready, the teacher arrives, right? And that doesn't really necessarily mean a physical person, like the teachers for me were the energetics. The teachers for me were like a friend or like a sister that would just like be like, hey, there's this group going on and we really work with the elements. Would you like to join? Sure, why not? So that's how I really started to really tap in more into the wisdom of the elements, and knowing that, of course, we all have the elements inside of us, and the more that we know what they really represent, the more that we can really understand it in our journey and see which side is a little bit more out of balance and how we can bring that into balance. So this is my wish for you during this transmission, to really understand them a little bit more, perhaps have a light bulb moment, so then it really can help you through your journey. Yeah. So let's start with the earth. The earth, obviously, the earth we know as Mother Earth, right? Our beautiful and fantastic planet. how she holds space so deeply for us, but at the same time, it's also our physical body. And I'm gonna start this with a perspective, of somebody that really harmed her physical body for so many years. And I know that some of my story from like bulimia, anorexia, used to also like cut myself, like my wrists, my arms, just also, working out like crazy, not giving my body a break, because that's also a self-sabotaging pattern for the physical body. Okay. So starting with that perspective, okay, I believe for a really long time that I was the physical body prior to this whole like awakening experience, and prior of like really going into this field. Yeah. And so like I really, that's what I believed, like, and I hated it. I hated it for so long. I hated it because as a kid I was made fun of, because I was the chubby of the family, and just did not feel really good, so if people were making fun of me, then I was just about my physical body, then it's like, oh, like I don't like you either. So how can I change you? And I didn't even know like healthy ways of really changing, right? I was like, for example, losing weight, right? So that's where I started to like, I even thought that maybe if I grab like a Caesar, I could like cut piece of like me, honestly, this is how like super unbalanced and fucked up my mind was, from all this, like from hearing all the shitty things about me, honestly. And so then, like I heard about bulimia, anorexia, and I was like, well, that's a really easy way of like losing the weight, but that goes like beyond that, right? That's a different topic. And it's a very deep topic. And so I went really deep in anorexia and bulimia, on and off, like I had maybe like 2 moments in my life where I almost died from that. It was intense and I couldn't stop it. And once I started to get more on the healthy side, meaning exercising and eating more, right? Eating more healthy and more balanced diet. And then I started to gain weight and muscle. And I became super, super fit, like really very, very fit. I was a Pilates teacher, a TRX teacher, and also a bar teacher. So then I just overdid it because I was so scared. I was so scared that if I stopped working out, and still ate like the things that I really like to eat, then I will like completely gain the weight again and just have all those patterns again. So obviously at those moments, I still had those patterns, it just went from one extreme to the other extreme. And it was very challenging, it was very challenging. And that's when I started to shift from like, I'm not just a physical body, there's something else going on, because I started to get into like yoga, meditation, and energy work practices. And but still, I didn't honor like this earth of me at all. And it was one of the moments when I was connecting with the cannabis plant at what was my home in Las Vegas, that I just had this thing about really asking my body for forgiveness. And I did. I literally play some really nice music, and I stay for like 2 hours touching every single part of my physical body from my toes all the way up, just asking for forgiveness for everything that I had done to it. And it was a crying fest for sure. I was there for like probably like 2 to 3 hours. And with the help also of cannabis, right? So then that's when I was like, wow, there's more to the physical body than that. And then the Kundalini awakening happened, and that just like shifted all, right? Because I was like, wow, like truly, I'm not just a physical body, there's more, and the physical body's alive. And then what does that even mean? So through the awakening experience in my journey from when the Kundalini energy rose to like a couple years ago, it was just like, wow, how can I honor this? Like she's also the earth, like this body is also the earth. If I'm just fucking this body up and not really honoring, I'm doing the same thing to the mother. And so how could I do that when I really love her so deeply? Because the awakening was just like really opening up many doors and many channels to like hear her and feel her and release for her. and also feeling how she releases for us too. So it was just like this wild experience of like a complete shift, from my childhood till like those moments in my life because of the awakening and the awareness, like the awareness hit like, holy moly, okay, like, so how can I honor this part of the mother? How can I honor this and take care of it and nurture it? And like just kind of like a little plant, right? Like you are the little plant. Okay, so let me take care of you. Let me oil you, let me like talk to you really nicely. Let me adorn you too, right? So it wasn't just like about like exercising or doing yoga practices, but like how do you like to be dressed? Like it might sound so silly, but like how do you like to be dressed? And I'm gonna give you a really simple example because like it has been something in my life, right? Like my body does not enjoy bras, and then it had been a conflict, honestly, and a partnership, and and then it was just like understanding, like this is just how I dress. This is how my body enjoys to be dressed, anyways, and of course, at times I like to like just be like very comfy, like why not, right? But at times I really like to dress up and really look nice. At times I like to wear makeup, and times I don't, so just learning the particular aspects of my physical body to be like, okay, how do you feel comfortable? What does comfortable mean for you, right? It just like when we're planting a tree, right? Or like a little seed, there's like many like things that like you have to do to the earth. You have to water, you talk to it. Well, I talk to it. and just witness this transformation, right? This growth is like very similar with your own earth. Like, you not just have to water it in the form of like obviously drinking water and eating healthy, and also like exercise and like, doing like mindful practices, right? But like there's a different aspect of it, of like understanding what it really likes, right? So like not really putting a lot of pressure in your belly, especially as a woman, right? Because it stops the energy, really, like not wearing like very uncomfortable clothes, or for me it is not wearing really dark clothes. I don't enjoy wearing black, which I did for a really long time, but more colorful, more joyful colors. And then also knowing what she likes to eat. I'm calling her a she, so like you just don't see me as that, right? Like we're talking about like the earth, your physical body. What does she like to eat? What she doesn't like to eat, And this is when like Ayurveda, in a way, with the doshas really like helps. Like mostly pitta, so which is like the fire, right? And so like I don't really enjoy eating a lot of spicy foods, like yes, a little kick is cool, but like I already have so much fire in me that if I give more fire to it, then it's just like I feel my belly like burning, honestly. And especially during the summertime, I normally just want to have like shakes, like protein shakes or like salads. Like there's nothing in me that really wants to have like soups, it's like, it's really just like too hot. So just learning those things, and that can totally help you to really witness a transformation in your physical body, right? And know the limitations, right? So like, for example, with me, like I was saying, with the story of like anorexia, bulimia, self distorted image, it was very challenging to like balance out the exercising routine, right? So I completely overdid it to hide that I still had those patterns, right? Because it wasn't just about not eating, but or eating and throwing up, but it shifted from like eating very well and very healthy to like completely overdoing an exercise. And literally what I'm talking about is like doing hot yoga, hot Pilates, or hot boot camp, and then or even like hot bar, and then still teaching almost like every day in a hot room, so that was like a lot for the body. And I wouldn't even give it a rest, because I would think like, shit, like I can't rest, because if I rest, my mind gets activated, so like learning those things and knowing that if you have a similar process like I did, right? Like have compassion for you. Obviously, that those things might arise, it could arise, maybe not, right? Depending on like how you're seeing things. But if you're seeing things as like, I'm actually really nurturing this earth part of me, then like knowing that like these things might happen, what can I actually do so they don't really get super activated in me, right? And one other thing that I can tell you honestly is to know it's like, of course I'm going to have this, of course it's going to happen because of all these years that I've had of like X, right? And if I had all these years of X and I'm just here in this tiny little space compared to this years of X, of course it's going to be a little intense, right? So knowing that it might happen, but also having the confidence that you can do it, you can absolutely do it. Now, the more that you really take care of your physical body, the more the channels, the energetic channels to the earth actually open up. The more that you're able to communicate and feel her, like truly feel her as like it were you, and that's what like honestly like took me to my knees. It's like, holy shit, mother. Like we actually have this ability to feel you and to listen to you and actually like feel how you are nurturing us, how you have us in your woman transformation whenever we're going to really deep processes. And it goes beyond that, the earth element, it's all about also like the elves, the gnomes, like the fairies, like all these like elementals, right? So like it really does open up to that world and realizing that we haven't been alone in this planet, it's just being like some kind of idea and perception that somebody put it out there and we just believed it. We cover up that sight, and the more that you actually wake that part up of you, your sight wakes up more, because it's just energetic channels. You already have them. You already have them. So it's just really starts with you and your physical body. Yeah. And again, if you have had, and no, actually, I'm going to say this, and I've said this before, in Kundalini Yoga, we say we have 10 bodies. The physical body is the number 5, which it is the point in which all the other bodies merge for you to have this experience. If in your numerology, based on the Kundalini Yoga tradition, you have a lot of number 5s in your chart, that means that is your power. Your physical body is your power. And you might have like things like how I did, with like my body and stuff. But that's your power. The more that you like really begin to love it and accept it and honor it, the more the like amazing doors open up for you. And if you're really interested in having your numerology charts done, just send me a message because that's part of my offerings. It's pretty on point. It's kind of weird. It's almost like, your birth chart, right? And I remember when I got it done and like I actually understood it after years and I went back to read it. It was like, wow, that's wild. Same with human design, right? So that is the earth, right? Like knowing how to water it, how to nurture it, how to take care of it, how to give it sunlight. Obviously, we need sunlight, right? Also, not just the sunlight, but also the wind and the water. It's really, really fascinating. Yeah. So this takes us into the water element. I love the rain. Oh, I've always loved the rain. I love dancing on the rain and getting like super soaked up on her magic and her essence and freedom. There's a lot of freedom that I feel when I'm just feeling the rain under my skin and on my shirt, on my clothes. The water element is your relationship with yourself, relationship with others. And think about, we're made out of mostly water, right? How your water is inside of you. And when I was learning this, I was like, whoa. Because think about all those things that you have told yourself, right? So not just your physical body, but your mind, your emotions, maybe even your spiritual self, right? The things that you said it. Did you say really shitty things to yourself? Did you even think really shitty things to yourself? Or was your life more like, I love you, which, it does happen for sure. And great for those brothers and sisters that it happens like that since childhood. So if you have really been, okay, so like, let me actually put a pause in here. So now let's just go with the example that you said like very shitty things to yourself multiple times. I'm going to give my example, right? Because you already know the story if you didn't know before. So I definitely said really shitty things to my physical body. And I mean, my emotions too, like I cut them off. And even the spiritual side, I just stopped it when I was a kid because it's totally scared the crap out of me. So this is my example. Now think about the water element literally as water within yourself, right? So every time that I said something really shitty to myself, I threw trash in my own ocean. And not just like, like a little, who knows, like a little piece of paper, just plastic upon plastic and net. So like, imagine those whole years, right? Where I just completely hated myself, and even including like the like suicidal tendencies during like the massive depression that I had, because my water just was like beyond contaminated, because of course those years and those thoughts and those words and whatever else the emotions do towards myself, I just constantly threw trash and trash and trash and trash on my own water, not really knowing what in the world I was doing, because I didn't know. Like I said, I didn't grow up with like somebody telling me like, if you say shitty things to yourself, it's going to go to your own water. You're going to contaminate your water until you're kind of like the ocean, like Pacific Ocean. Like there was a point like in Lima where the Pacific Ocean was like horrible. You couldn't even like swim in it. Now it's like a little bit different. So thank goodness. But, so just imagine that. Or even in the Pacific, in Southeast Asia, right? Like around that area. And there's a lot of like steel plastic, right? It's being worked through, but like, just imagine. And this is also a mirror of us. Yeah. So the more that we're constantly saying that to ourselves, it's because we're linked with this whole planet. It also happens outside of what we believe is outside of us. Yeah. So like in the ocean, for example. And so going back into cleaning my ocean was very intense, because imagine, so like there was like a point in my life, right, where I just wanted to die. And I totally just like tried to commit suicide many times. So my water was to the point of just like almost no return. Yeah. And because life really saved me, which I believe honestly is like the deep unconditional love of myself, but it goes beyond that. Yeah. I really believe that it was a miracle that I was saved. So that miracle saved me. Yeah. And then I began to like undo the trash that I had put in my ocean. Now imagine that you were actually the globe, the planet. Yeah. And almost every corner in the ocean is full with trash. Like it's a deep work to undo the whole thing by yourself, because mostly I did it by myself. So it meant feeling all those emotions, but it started with, I'm sorry, right? Just how I was, and this is how the elements are linked, how I was apologizing to my physical body for all the shitty things that I had done and said to it, and not even done and not even said. Yeah. And so that opened up the door to also heal my water. Yeah. To begin to feel all those emotions that I had said, because you have to redo it. Right. And part of the process, perhaps not like as deep as like my own process, but part of my process was to feel every single thing again. Yeah. And to know from the perspective of like, I want to change my body or all these things. Yeah. Just more like the relief of like my water, as like it was releasing, right? So as I was taking the trash out, I will feel what I had said to her. And so what I had said to myself, right? And it's like feeling those emotions again in the way of like, holy shit, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I even went there. I wasn't even aware, you know? So then you begin to have more compassion for yourself. So I began to have way more compassion to myself, because it's like, I didn't even know. I had no idea what I was doing, right? And it was like a massive process, because energetically speaking, you start at the surface, but it goes deep and deep and deep and deep, until like you get out of like your own personal experience and goes into like our collective experience, you know? So it was just like very intense, honestly, but wonderful, wonderful, because like I knew again that I was coming back to my own senses, coming back to my authentic self, and also cleaning my water, right? And it's not like they're all linked, you guys. So like the elements are all linked. So if you begin to work with your physical body and treat it right, like all the doors open up for the other elements. I'm just separating so you kind of understand a little bit more, yeah? So obviously there was a lot of like tears that happened, you know, the really like crying fest. But for healing, you know, for healing, for love, for awareness. Yeah. So this takes us into, so just one second, let me just give you something that you can do for the water. Yeah. Because it's not just like, again, it's you. I just give the example of you, but there's also the relationship with others. How do you see others, right? How do you interact with others? How is the relationship with your parents? How is the relationship with your siblings, with like, I don't know, your partner, right? Because we gotta remember that they're also a mirror of ourselves, especially if you have an intense relationship with somebody, right? They're mirroring something in you. And so looking at that as in like, wow, thank you for the offering that you're giving me. It's completely different than it's like pointing fingers and being like, oh, just shut up, dad, or something, you know? Trust me, I've done that so many times. But then being grateful is like, wow, you're actually showing me a really deep part of myself that I'm ready, because I'm seeing it, because I'm activated. Yeah. And so thank you for the offer that you're giving me, even though it's intense, you know, and I'm doing my best to maneuver through this process. And it's compassion, you guys, compassion. You gotta remember to have compassion for yourself, because especially if you had really intense relationship with others, they're very close to you, it can be like deeply activating, right? So breathe, inhale and exhale, and just like, no, okay, this is happening for a reason. Thank you. Whether it's so freaking intense right now, thank you. I might not understand it right now, but thank you. I'm working through this, and thank you. Okay. So this is something that can really help you, knowing that you are in a deep process of transformation, you know, that you're cleansing your water, but again, it starts with your own water. So the more that you cleanse it, and like, again, that could also start with the physical body, right? As you're like cleansing all the habits and stuff, but also, you know, just like speaking into your body, right? Just saying like, I love you, just looking at yourself in the mirror and said, I love you, and make silly faces or something, you know, because that's the connection with yourself, looking at yourself in the mirror, having one of those like meditation practices, right? And honestly, it might be so freaking scary for you, and I totally understand, because it was for me. And again, with my long history of like hating myself, right? But start gently. If you cannot gaze at yourself in like in the eyes, maybe look at something that you really like. Maybe you really like your hair, maybe you really like your lips, and like be like, I love you, lips, you're so cute right now. You know, it's just like really begin to just like open up the communication with yourself, because it's like everything in you is waiting for that opportunity to feel loved, to really feel the love that you are, right? So it's almost like your water element is like, yeah, is she gonna come through right now? Okay, I'm just waiting, you know, I'm waiting for the opportunity to say how much I love her. You know, so it's like just kind of like tapping around, sitting, you know, so it's like really everything in you is waiting for that opportunity for you to open up the space of communication and be like, yes, you know, yes, I'm so ready, and yes, I love you, and yes, I'm sorry I fucked up, I didn't know any better, but like I'm here now, okay, and this is really fucking difficult right now, but I'm trying it, you know. So like, because it knows, your system knows, you know, just like, you know, of course it knows that it's difficult, you know, of course it knows your whole history, but it's also ready for you. It's also ready for you to open up that door and like for it to hold you, right? Like the water element can do so much for you. And this goes also into like, how do you honor the actual water, you know, at your house? Do you waste it? What about the ocean? You know, what about the rivers? Like and I've said this before, you know, and you can do this with every element too. When I enter into a forest, I ask for permission. I ask permission for like the spirits and the guides of like the forest to like let me come in. And I do this every time I take my puppy to a little forest that is like down the road from us, you know, even though the energies know us already, right? I still honor them because I know it's so sacred inside of it. And I know there's a whole ecosystem there of not just plants and trees, but also animals, you know, and water, like water too. So it's really just honoring everything as divine because everything is alive and it is divine, you know? So yeah, you can do something like that too, like with the water, you know, and giving thanks when you're making tea, holy moly, you know, when you're making tea, when you're making juice, like any of those things, because even like an apple has juice, which has water, right? So like there's the elements right there. You can begin to connect with those elements in different kinds of ways, and maybe ways that like it feels so intuitively to you and other people don't really do it, right? So that's the water. Now let's go into the air. The air is more obviously the breath, the intellect too, your mind, yeah. With the air obviously starts with the breath. Learning how to breathe properly. A lot of people breathe on the chest, right? Start with the belly, expand your belly, right? And like maybe you have been conditioned or maybe not, but you've heard of women like keep the belly in, right? So like you look smaller. Oh, what a shit show. Like what? No, like that does not help you at all. And like I'm laughing because that was my story, okay? Like I had to like learn to relax my pelvic floor, to relax my belly, to relax my diaphragm because everything was so tight because I wanted everything to be smaller, you know? And even when I was very small, I couldn't see how small I was. So here is really about learning how to breathe and knowing that at times, especially if you are in intense moments, right? In intense conversations, or just find yourself like having a little bit of anxiety or like feeling a little bit depressed, you know, like, are you breathing, right? Because at times, like, and also I catch myself, at times I'm not breathing. I'm like, oh, shoot. Maybe it'll be a good idea to breathe right now. So then I breathe again, right? Breathe consciously whenever like I'm doing the dishes, you know, my breathing, yes, cool. When I'm cooking, all right. When I'm walking my puppy, you know, and it's like those divine moments in life whenever I'm breathing so consciously because I'm aware. I'm like super duper aware of what's happening, you know, in me, what's happening around me, and just seeing everything with different eyes. And this is why I deeply love to take my puppy for a walk, like in the morning, especially right now that it's still a little bit of winter, right? When it's kind of cold, the wind is picking up, but the sun is like shining so brightly and the trees are speaking so loudly, you know, so I'm just walking and breathing and I hear my breath within me and the connectivity to Father Sun, to the earth, to the wind, you know, it's just like, wow, we get to experience this because again, I'm not the only one, right? This is just something that we remember, some kind of energetic channels that we clean. And then it's like, bam, cool. So like have those moments for you too. You're so worthy. You're so worthy of having those moments, you know, you're so worthy of breathing. You're so worthy of oxygenating everything in your body. That's like making love to your body, you know, you're bringing life force energy, right? What is called prana. You're bringing prana into you. And it's everything is just like, thank you. This is so good. And it's just literally feeding yourself with air. Wow, you know? And that's like such a deep level of love when we do this consciously, because we can do this anytime and it's free, you guys, you know, like it's just like life itself has just given us these great opportunities to like feed ourselves with so much love, as the air comes in and it really touches your face, and your hair is maybe just going like in different directions, dancing, and then you take it in, and all this like thing, this alchemy happens inside of you, right? And it's just like goes all the way to you if you allow it to, right? If you're not just breathing on the chest, if you start from the belly, from the navel, that expanding all the way up, it's like, thank you, air, holy moly, right? And at times we might not even feel the air, as in like, right? I mean, right here in my workroom, it's not like the air is just like passing like this, right? But there's still air. I'm still able to breathe, right? Because the air is around us too, right? Not just when you feel it really deeply, right? But it's always there. And you can always connect, and you can always create gratitude. Like, thank you. Thank you. Because it is because of you that I can be here, that I can nurture my organs and my body in different ways that I normally can. Right? And it's something that like sometimes it actually does happen without even thinking about it, right? But when we're conscious about it, it's like, so good. So think about that, right? How are you breathing? And it's like constrained when you're breathing from the navel, right? Like, what happens? Do you feel tight? Does it stop somewhere, right? And can you relax that part of you to allow it to go deeper? It's so good. It's so good. And it's like, again, like a powerful and beautiful example of like an exercise of self-love, really. And it's so simple, right? So simple. This is why breath work is so powerful, you guys. Ooh, so powerful. And he agrees. See? He did his like bark of agreement. But the other aspect of air, is the intellect, right? So like for example, reading, like absorbing, not just reading, but like absorbing information that you really like, right? So like we're constantly absorbing a lot of information, especially if you watch TV, right? If you watch TV, if you watch the news, there's like, well, maybe you don't if you're listening to this podcast, or maybe at times you do, who knows, right? I don't. I never liked it. As a kid, I was like, why are we watching this? And it would just make me so sad. So I just stopped. And even my parents know when I visit them, they don't turn on the news when I'm there, or when I'm in the same room, in the same space as them, they turn it off, because I'm like, I don't want to know. So they learn, but yeah, so it's like absorbing this information, right? But information that is serving you well. And now here, what I hear is like there's two kinds of information, right? So, well, let me just go with this before it goes away. So there is like kind of information that is serving you well, maybe reading like books about spirituality, right? Or even like books they are more fun in a way, right? So they're just to relax, right? And there's other ones that like just bring like very, very heavy energy, right? However, okay, you really have to be able to discern, and I do trust that the journey does take all of us there, how much information you're absorbing from let's say like self-development, right? And when to really stop it. So when to like stop reading and actually embody it, right? Because at times people can read and read and read and read and have all this like knowledge intellectually, but they don't really like embody it. They don't really walk it. Yeah. And so remember that it's like it could reach a moment that it might feel so much, maybe not for you, so just, and then kind of like block a little bit like the intuitive nature, because there's so much being absorbed, right? But that doesn't mean like don't read, or don't learn. And of course, learning doesn't just happen by reading or by doing, right? It happens by listening. Here comes the air element, by listening, right? By listening to the wind, by listening to here comes the earth element, to the trees, to the fairies, to the gnomes, right? So it also happens like listening to your own energetic bodies, right? Well, that's ether. So hello, ether. And that's like my learning, of course there's multiple ways to learn, right? I'm constantly learning with my yoga teacher here. I'm constantly learning with my Kundalini teacher. I'm constantly learning with me. Like I am like a really great teacher of mine, like with my energetics. I'm constantly learning from my puppy. I'm constantly learning from my partner, you know? So like even from like my parents, right? So like we're constantly learning. So not necessarily means, right, to grab a book and you're reading it. Be a unicorn. Thank you, Mila. She's one of my besties from Las Vegas, right? So it just doesn't mean that you will open up a book, you know, and start continuously reading it. By the way, you can check out her art. Great morning art on Instagram. She's amazing, honestly amazing. Side note, or like parenthesis, I like to call it, since the book was right here on my desk. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to open up a book of 50 billion books, right? Or like buy a bunch of books. I did this too when I first started like learning Kundalini. Buy a lot of books and never even read any of them. You know, like it overwhelmed me. It overwhelmed me, you know? So yeah, like, and pace it out, right? There's some books like The Power of Now, right? That I love how it has like a little symbol, which means like, well, at the beginning of the book, he explains, right? Like that symbol means take a pause and like really feel like everything that you just read, right? So perfect, right? That's a perfect opportunity to embody that and to understand it more in your own way, right? So, and also being mindful, right? Like there's also a lot of information that happens in movies, right? In TV shows and stuff, and like, and even in cartoons, right? So like really knowing that we're constantly absorbing this and how to balance that out, right? And so this is the part of communication, right? How do you communicate with yourself? See, it all always starts with you. It's amazing, with yourself and with others. Like, how is your throat? Are you able to say yes? Are you able to say no? Are you able to put boundaries? Are you able to just say like, you know? So if your throat is really close, working with the air element does help, right? And again, this is about of like simple technique that you can just like kind of like, you know, go down on your throat, like you're massaging a little bit, just gentle. I'm literally just going up and down in my throat right here, right? If you're not watching the video anyways. And from there, just open up that communication. See, like, so I find it so simple because as I said this many times, as humans, we like to complicate things. You know, it's not that complicated. Like open up the communication. It wants to talk to you. And then at the same time, you know, like working with your own communication, right? How do you talk to yourself? See, how do you talk to yourself at the same time? You know, how do you speak to others? Are you conscious of what you're saying, or just words just blah, you know? And you can even use an instant, right? Like looking at how it moves, like the movement of the air, if there's no actually wind around you, right? Just like with earth, you can have a crystal, right? With water, literally having a cup of tea or a cup of water, right? So, and honoring that, you know, there's got to be an honor, like exchange in a way, because the elements do honor us, right? Because they know we are them. Yeah. So doing something like that, and reading something for yourself too. This is also like very good about journaling, you know, journaling like your thoughts down, especially if you wake up with like a mind super activated. Write down your thoughts in one page or three. Like there's this workbook, The Artist Way, right? It starts with like 3 pages every morning that you literally write your shit out. And if you don't even know what to write down, you say, I don't know what to write down for 3 pages. Yeah, it does help. And that begins to clear. Again, it cleanses like your air and also your water, you know, and of course your earth. So that's the air. Thank you, air element. And then we go into the fire. The fire. I really enjoy this element, and because I have that fire essence in me. But the fire is like, you have to be mindful of your fire, yeah? Because your fire can burn you, or your fire can show you your way. What do I mean by that? Going back to my story, right? So obviously I give you this example because it's like the best example like that I know, right? It's not that I'm going to share with you like things about my clients. And plus I lived it, I know how it felt like. So my fire, when I totally hated myself and I was self-destructed, that was using my fire against me to burn myself. The moment that and so this is, a long story, like I said, of like 20 years or something. The moment that I began to get into this part of my life, right? Prior of like the Kundalini awakening, started to yoga, meditation, etc., leading into the Kundalini awakening, what happened was that it shifted. So rather than my fire pointing towards me and burning me, then it shifted away to show me the way. Yeah. To be in a way that light, like the lights that will like light up the tunnel in the road. And so then it was like, wow, this is a little bit easier. I'm not just like myself, but I'm seeing things. I'm seeing my journey and I know where I'm heading. And this is the road because my fire was showing it to me. But this is your will, this is a spiritual side of you. This is in a way like you can also call it your soul. That is like, it knows how to lead you, where to go at any moment in time. The question is, do you allow it to, right? So if you're in the self-sabotaging patterns and on these years, right, deeply, that means that your fire is burning you. If it's somewhat like it's still happening, you're turning because you're in this journey, right? Like what things to do. Maybe you're already like an energy worker or maybe like a coach, whatever, but you're in that field. And but at times you still have those self-sabotaging patterns, it doesn't mean that it's fully turned away from you to show you the way, but it is, it has. And at times it can just like go like this way. Because what it's doing, like it's really releasing the energies that were stuck around you, right? So when it was turned towards you and burning you, like the whole back of the face of your fire was actually like stuck energy. So the more that you began to like love yourself, accept yourself, and work with all the rest of the elements and began to turn, so then the other parts where the energies were stuck were like begin to release, so then you can turn. Yeah. So you can begin to turn, because what happens when it's fully showing forward and there's no stuck energies around, it can also help you with shadow work. All right. And not necessarily your own, but also helping others, right? Because then it begins to turn. It can turn. You can also go back into your own shadows to do like something specific, not necessarily to do shadow work, but like to like understand something about the shadow realm, right? And then like going back and show you forward. It's such a powerful element. And this is honestly one of my favorite elements, because of this fire, I was able, and this is my belief, I was able to tap in so deeply into my own shadows. Because it was also a light shower when it was pointing to me. Okay. So there's a moment where like the fire is burning because you're just in a way have no awareness of what you're doing, that you're in a way killing yourself. I know it sounds so harsh, but like I don't really like to like sugarcoat things. People do this so much to me in my life. I'm like, please just tell me the truth. Yeah. So like, because in that way, that's what you're doing, So okay, I'm gonna change the words. They just told me. All right. You're not being so nice to yourself, yeah? You're not being so nice to yourself, and you're not really aware that you're doing that, or not in a deep level. So it's like burning, okay? But the moment that like you're able to work consciously with that, actually, excuse me, I like went too far. So there's a point where you decide. That you really want to get to know yourself and love yourself, and in a way just like go away from all the deep shadows that you are doing towards yourself. Yeah. So then the light lights up. So in a way the fire is still burning, but there's a single light. You can take that road. I know you can take the road inwards, and it will guide you through your own shadow world. And you're probably like, how in the world do I do that, Rukmani? You just surrender. This is one of the things that I also like share and teach my clients, because that's the way that I did it. That's the way that I was able to go so deep in my shadows, in my energetic field, because it took me to the ether. Yeah, it took me to the ethers, and the ether is an element that is like, ooh, how do we even explain the ether, right? It's like, it's all the energies, right? But like, and everything has energy. So like, it's everything in itself. And it's so particular, and it's so empowering, and it's so deep. And it's just about feeling it, it's really feeling it and understanding its language and knowing, right? When you surrender to that element, it's when it surrenders to you, and it shows you many things that maybe you didn't even think they were possible, right? That was my story. When I surrendered to my own shadows, to that fire that was burning me, and also like to that light that was guiding me inwards to my own shadow world, then it opened up the door to the ethers. And the ether was like, let me take you. Let me show you. And it showed me my whole like shadow world. And it went deeper into the collective shadow world, which this is why I love what I do, because it's so fascinating, like in this like spiritual like realm in a way, right? When we're so deep into the spirituality, it's like, oh, the light and all these things and the unicorns and the rainbows, yes, they're great, like they're so good, right? But there's the power, the lies, and the shadows. And so like for a long time I heard, and I did it myself too, like, no, shadow, no thank you. Light, yes, come in. And shadow, you stay there. Nope, I don't even want to look at you. You don't even have power. The light has all the power. And it was like, definitely not, so when I began to honor that realm, it changed everything. It was like, wow, look at all this power. Because as sound, or as stupid as it sounds, the light is inside the shadow. Like you go inwards in your own shadow realm, and then you will find that gem, and that's your light. The gem, the so bright, it's like vibrating and vibrating and vibrating. But you have to travel through your own shadow world to see it, to see the depth and the truth of your light, as you have walked through the depth of your own shadows. And I've given this example many times, but I deeply love like this book, Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. It's a book that is written in old Italian, but it's definitely has its translations in English. I studied it in Italian, and it was phenomenal. When I understood that, when I understood the book, and there's like even my teacher in college, university, this was at UNLV, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. He was explaining that there are still people that are studying this book because it's so deep, they're not really understanding it. And I understood it later, that it was like the journey of Dante Alighieri into his own enlightenment, because he goes so deep, he starts saying that he walks the rings of fire, right? So in order to like really find himself, there's 3 books. I know, bear with me. There's 3 books, okay? There's the book of like Inferno, which is hell, the purgatory, and then heaven. Okay. He walks through the rings of fire of hell. And then he walks through his whole shadow worlds, and he even gives like this like examples with like things that happen in Italy, right? And the politics and things like that, which he goes into the collective shadow world of his experience, right? And then goes into the purgatory, which is something more mild because it's elevating, right? So then going deep into the shadows and then beginning to see the light, but not truly tapping into it. So that's the purgatory. And then goes into heaven, the moment that he gets to witness the creator, all that is. He realizes that's him, that's you, that's me. It's this phone, it's this book, it's my puppy, it's like every pebble that has ever existed in experience, every drop of water, so it's like, whoa. But that's what gets to happen to us, when we really surrender to our own shadows, when we trust the fire that is burning us, I know it sounds so funky, and then really let us be guided, like let it guide you into that like light. It's almost like a laser pointer, and then you walk and it's like, yeah, and you walk through the shadows, even though you have this laser pointer and you see just a little bit, and sometimes it's just like, what the fuck, but it's like, okay, but I trust you, and you love the shadows. You love the shadows, and they're there to also support you, not to disempower you. They're there to empower you. And then you get to see your light, and it's like, it's right there. I know it's right there. I know at times even my clients have had that moment, like, I know it's there. How do I tap into it? Because it's there. Your own fire is guiding you to that, and is guiding you through the ethers. And then, you find it and you feel it. And it's like, holy moly, whoa. I just want to give a moment to really feel that out, because I'm feeling it so deeply in my heart, like the power of these elements, the power of the ether, the power of the fire, whether the fire is actually burning you right now or just slightly burning you and showing you the way. Yeah. It's like, good. Yeah. Breathing through that, expanding the navel, and being so grateful for these elements. They're part of you. They're so part of you. How wonderful. Wow. Thank you for taking the pause with me. I so needed it. So that's when the fire is like inwards, and then it's like, and then no longer needs to show you the way to like walk through your shadows, because you learned and you appreciated the ethers, and then you're like this with the ethers, like in a deep communion with the ether. And then it just shows you your way, your road, your journey is like plop. And you're like, yes, thank you. It's so powerful. Honoring, honoring these elements. And it's good. I will recommend, to start with one element that that needs more work, right? So again, for me, it was the physical body, right? So honoring that, honoring the earth more, spending more time in nature, having a plant, loving the plant, nurturing the plant, but also nurturing your own tree, your physical body. And then from there to see, right? Connecting with that. And if you have an altar, like hopefully you have the 4 elements, right? The fifth, the ether, is always there too. So yeah. I hope you enjoyed this transmission. It was really fun, and I'm sure you can tell when I'm fired up and things are just coming through. It's like, whoa. That's why I took a pause. Anyways, feel free to send me a message or an email at info@rukmanicore.com if you enjoy this episode. If you'd like to have a session with me, or have a chat. I do have a 30 to 40 minutes remembrance call is what it's called. If you like to share something and I can understand more your journey from there, perhaps going into holding space for you. Yeah. So blessings, blessings, blessings. Mucho amor para todos. Ciao, peace. I'll see you next time.